Coming up now on 7:15 here at Acadiana's Morning News, but it now turns into a Wingin' It Wednesday.
The lights dim, the fog machine turns on, a couple referees walk in. They're not marshals, but a couple referees, they come
Let's
in.
Get ready to rumble.
Everybody gets oiled up.
Stafford, it's just you, and we think it's weird every single time, all right?
Your eyes don't think it's weird.
You guys, it's wild.
Stop the bromance, please.
That's right. So Wingin' It Wednesday brought to you by Service Cadillac, and thank you so much to those folks. And, you know, it really is in the name. It's in service. And the Cadillac vehicles, the entire line, it brings you luxury, but also just makes you comfortable. So check them out today. 1212 Ambassador Caffrey for Service Cadillac. Our panelists are in studio. Carol Ross joining us, Warren Caudle, and Stafford Barnett in studio. We're going to start out with a 1-minute comment period about the Vermilion Parish school board situation, the subsequent arrest of Deyshia Hargrave. We'll get 1 minute from each of our panelists, and then we're going to go to our interview with School Board President Anthony Fontana, who also agreed to talk to Rob and I this morning. So we're going to head into that. So I'm just going to start here because you're the person to my left, Stafford Barnett, joining us. Your 1 minute to give your overview of the situation and how you appreciate it at this point.
It's really ugly, but I want to clarify, this is not something that happened overnight. I want to say that I think what happened is a sign of voter apathy. I think these guys didn't just walk into that position overnight. They've been there for a long time. They're obviously they're obviously used to operating like they think they're not being filmed. I think that what happened to the 2016 Teacher of the Year is an absolute travesty. I think the cops are a joke for trying to push this back onto the board. I didn't see any part of her that looked like she was resisting arrest. That was a small woman who got thrown around by a police officer, and a police officer that shouldn't be in charge of people. Period.
Warren Caudle, your 1 minute, sir.
You know, I don't even know where to really start on this thing. I watched part of the video, and I don't know anything about the background of it and all of that, but I do know this, is that these public meetings, sometimes they get completely out of hand, and generally it all comes down to the leadership of that board and who's in charge of it. And that the one thing that I think that really needs to be brought out on this, between talking about who's right, who's wrong, test scores improved, teachers' pay hasn't gone up, superintendent's pay hadn't had a pay raise. A lot of people hadn't had a pay raise. In fact, most people had a pay cut. But, you know, on top of all that, generally when we start talking about education, it all comes down to one thing, money. Both sides, the only thing they want to discuss is money. Nobody wants to discuss how to improve it. Nobody wants to discuss the kids. Are they better off? Are they worse off? Are they getting educated? Are they not getting educated? It all just simply comes down to more money.
All right, time now for our 60 seconds with Carol Ross. Ma'am, your thoughts?
If you've been following the school board at all, you've seen that there's been a rift among the members. So this has been brewing for a long time. And there have been basically 3 to 4 members who have felt that they've been pretty much shut out. So I think the fact that they were giving the superintendent a pay raise and the teachers haven't gotten one in 10 years, and that's something that can build a lot of discontent. Vermilion Parish is an A parish, is A-rated and has a bunch of A-rated schools, and so the superintendent felt that he was due a pay raise. The teachers, however, feel we're on the front line and we should have a pay raise too. But this whole thing getting down to the governance, if there are clear guidelines for everyone to follow, these things don't happen. Clear guidelines, clear timelines, everybody knows what they have to follow, etc. What is in the gap? What's in the gap in the video? Between the time that you see her being escorted out and the time that she's being manhandled down to the floor. What happened in between those times? So I think there's a problem in governance here, in clear authority, but there is a pattern all over the country. Reporters and questioners of bodies, public bodies, have been thrown out of meetings for asking too many questions.
It is coming up now on 7:19, a 60-second break. When we come back on Acadiana's Morning News and Wingin' It Wednesday, Rob and I will speak with the Vermilion Parish School Board President, Anthony Fontana. Coming up now, 7:39, Acadiana's Morning News. We're going to go to our phone lines this morning as part of our Wingin' It Wednesday segment as we continue with our first topic dealing with the Vermilion Parish School Board situation. And we'll go to our first caller. Hi, you're on the show. Would you please give us what you're thinking?
Hi, I just wanted to say that, one of the big things that everybody keeps saying is that the teachers are against the superintendent getting a raise. It's not necessarily that we're against him getting a raise. It's more about there's no money for school supplies. There's no money for the things that our students need to be successful. So if there's no money for what we need to do our job successfully or to make our kids successful, how is there money for the superintendent to get a raise? And I think that's where a lot of the problem and a lot of the frustration comes from.
Okay. Thank you for your thoughts, ma'am. I appreciate it. We go to our next call that's been waiting. You're on the show. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Listening to the school board president, he needs to be reminded that there's video at all times when during this little scenario that happened. Ms. Deyshia only got to speak for 2 minutes. If you watch the video, she started speaking at 38 seconds into the video, and she finished her conversation at 2 minutes and 38 seconds. So when you listen to him and he says, she has 3 minutes, I let her speak for more than 3 minutes, that's not a true statement.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Another thing on the video too is he said when she said I'm speaking for a lot of teachers here.
No,
and
she said I'm speaking for
some
or a lot.
In any case,
right? I'm sorry.
His thought that some people there said you don't speak for us. There's also video of that. And it's silent. No one says that it's silent. I think it was a very clear thing.
Well, and did some teachers say that, though? And did we
maybe
not?
So.
Maybe we couldn't hear it.
Well, it might not have picked up on the video.
Might not have picked up on video. Okay, back to the phone lines and we get back to our panelists. Hi. Thank you so much for patiently waiting. Please go ahead.
Yes, good morning. I don't necessarily always agree with Stafford on political views, but I think you hit the nail on the head with this one, and I completely agree with him 100% that the president just seemed like he was a bully, and he just handled the situation completely wrong. Given the I think with the entire situation, if he would have just said, look, we apologize what happened. These are the rules. We're going to go back and review our procedures and our processes and look to see what we can do to improve this from going forward. But it also appeared that he had an agenda as well. So, I hope this has a good outcome.
I know you're saying you agree with Stafford, and we do have very cold weather expected by Friday. Will hell freeze over again?
Thank you.
I don't know. It just very well maybe.
All right, caller. Thank you very much. All right, we go back to our panelists. I want to start this time with Warren. We did hear from School Board President Anthony Fontana. Your thoughts on this situation, and I guess from this point on and going forward, Warren?
First of all, I want to comment on that last caller saying that he liked what Stafford said, and I want to compliment Stafford on improving.
We have a certificate for you waiting in the lobby. Most improved.
These colorblind glasses have changed everything.
Gold star on the collar.
The one big question that comes to mind with me is he said this was simply going to be an up or down vote on the contract, and then he says that she wanted to bring up the pay raise. Well, is the pay raise part of the contract?
Yes, indeed.
And if it is, then that's open for discussion.
That would be germane to
At
the
least
issue.
That's the way I understand it.
I think many people feel that way.
And how can you separate? If you're going, and if it was just going to be an up or down vote, then why have we even discussed it at all?
Maybe it was an up or down vote in the minds of some of the members, but not in other members.
And he even said they had to have a discussion because of the rules. So it almost seemed like if it wasn't in the rules,
we wouldn't have the discussion.
The big thing about it is that there's right way and wrong way of doing things, and that I'm gonna go back to and it's public boards, and some of them are not public, but what made Michael Moore famous was that movie he did with Roger Smith called Roger and Me, where he traipsed around there wanting to interview the chairman of General Motors. And all Roger Smith had to do was invite him into his office, spend about 2.5 hours and explaining to him why that the GM plant in Flint, Michigan had to close, and it would have been case over with. But he goes to he winds up going to a stockholders meeting because Michael Moore bought one share of stock, and whenever he got up there to ask his question, Roger Smith had this smirk on his face. He looked around at the board and he said, "Gentlemen, I think now is a good time to entertain a motion to adjourn." And that one thing galvanized a good segment of the country on the side of, I hate to say it, but on the side of Michael Moore. And, Roger Smith totally, it damn near brought General Motors down. In fact, it played a big part in General Motors going bankrupt eventually.
All right, Warren, thank you. Carol, you're next. Please tell us what you think.
Well, yes, it was, germane is not just a Jackson. It was germane to the issue. The pay raise was part of the contract. I knew I'd get you with that one, Rob.
Gosh, Carol.
The pay raise was part of the contract. And so it was germane to the entire issue. Anthony Fontana has been in charge of that board for a long time. There have been simmering discontents among some board members and the leadership. So it brings up the thing about when you're in there that long and you start, it's the old Louis XIV, right, l'état c'est moi. If you think everything that you believe is good for the system and you start functioning that way and not willing to entertain other people's ideas, etc. Getting down to why the teachers in Vermilion Parish are have so much discontent. This is the winter of their discontent, is because they haven't had a pay raise apparently in 10 years. The voters in Lafayette Parish voted in a specific tax for teacher pay raises. Now, it has been somewhat abused over the years, but they've gotten it back to the original intent, and that is the way it should be, a dedicated fund for the teacher salaries. We want the teachers to act like professionals. We should treat them as professionals. And unfortunately, I think they felt at this meeting they were not treated as professionals.
All right, Stafford, you are next, sir.
Yeah, the thing that disappointed me about that whole thing was, I'd like to make a reference to something that happened in Lafayette, right? We had a police officer get shot, right? Mm-hmm. And Lafayette got caught with his pants down and basically said, like, hey, we don't have the things in place to deal with this. And our leadership all came out and said, hey, guys, we recognize that this is a weakness, something's wrong, and we should do something about it, right? And they got ugly there for a little while, but eventually they worked it out. That guy that we just called into didn't have an ounce of remorse in his body. And let me tell you what, all he had to do was have a plan in place to be able to take questions, to have a discussion, and then a plan on how to escort people out the building without arresting somebody for resisting. Let me tell you what, that is the biggest crock I've seen on video in a long time. And it is disturbing to me if the people of Vermilion Parish continue to elect clowns like that to be in charge of their school board, who do not care about their constituents and who do not want to do the right thing, then this one's on them.
It is coming up now on 747. I would like to add quickly as one caveat that Lafayette Parish used to have that comment session at the end of their public school board meetings. They did do away with that comment section at the end of our meetings. So Vermilion Parish does at least have that comment section. Now, if you do want to comment before each item is voted on, the public in Lafayette Parish is allowed to vote.
It has to be an agenda item.
Correct.
Also. You can't just get up there. But the other thing, I wouldn't go so far as Stafford did to really vilify those people, because they've all said they don't want her prosecuted. The DA over there has said he's not going to prosecute. But the question is, it's a question of judgment by that officer. Why did he go so far in treating the woman the way he did? That's what really got people's attention.
You know why they don't want to prosecute? Because they got it on film. If this wasn't on film, this would be just, hey, somebody got arrested at the Vermilion Parish meeting, and we'd be talking to people, and we'd be sitting in this room going,
well, she was arrested.
She said. That's what I'm saying, though. We wouldn't have this video that's gone viral, right, that the world has now seen. This was front page, the number one story on Reddit, front page of Daily Mail, U.S. News, on NBC Nightly News. It was on The View. I mean, this has been everywhere. This guy, you heard him say it. Well, we've gotten our threats. Yeah, the general consensus of society is that you were bad at your job. You shouldn't have done that. Escort the person out, ask her to leave, but you don't throw the woman on the ground and put her in handcuffs and book her in the jail.
All right, we've got to take a break. When we come back, more comment from folks who listen to Acadiana's Morning News and Winging It Wednesday. And yeah, it is turning cold by Friday, but today it's going to be a warm one. But that fog is still thick out there. Y'all be careful, please.
All right, so we're back with our dysfunctional version of the Supremes. Carol would, of course, be Diana Ross.
Yes, absolutely.
The other
Thank
two,
you.
who we don't know their names, are just the other two.
I wish I had her figure. Oh, my gosh.
Dancer. Anyway, all right, let's go back
Well,
to
now
12.
we can't because I don't know where all the people went. Suddenly, that's what happens. So many people call sometimes.
Call back.
And it
During the
zeroes
breaks,
out.
yeah.
And it zeroes out. So it's
They figure it out.
232-1542-232-1542. All right,
there they
caller.
are.
Thank you so much for being patient with us this morning. You're up next. Go ahead.
Hello. Some of the people that are saying stuff on the radio show here are upsetting me a little bit. Wow, I'm getting a feedback. Hold on.
Okay, don't worry. You have to just go because we're on the air.
Yeah.
Take your time.
When Stafford said that he didn't see anything that indicated that she was resisting arrest. Anytime you pull away from an officer or a twist like she was doing, that is technically resisting arrest. Now, what I'm curious about is, did the officer inform her she was under arrest before that ensued?
Well, one of the calls we got yesterday said she wasn't read her rights. It's questionable. It's on
right. Just because you're not read your rights, that when an officer says you're under arrest, you have the right. He doesn't have to read your rights right there.
I think the ultimate. I appreciate your comment. The ultimate thing was the whole thing
necessary?
even necessary?
Yeah.
But I think she was arrested for resisting arrest.
That was the charge.
So if she was arrested for resisting arrest, then wouldn't she have to be under arrest for something to resist the arrest?
All great questions.
I think, yeah.
But someone said not technically, but then there are two.
Well, it's resisting an officer.
Yeah, it can be resisting the demands of an officer. But I think all of this was racially motivated.
Oh, my God.
Warren,
really,
stop it.
We only have 3 minutes left of the show. You can't just throw out
now
something
you want to
like
open
that.
up that can of worms.
All right, we're back to the phone lines. Caller, you are next. Thank you
Slap
for
him,
patiently
Rob.
waiting. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, hello, guys. I just wanted to say that that gentleman is a perfect reflection, Mr. Fontana, of the government going rogue on our citizens and not even understanding what happens in the classroom. I'm married to a school teacher. They don't know the investment, the time that they spend, and the money that they have to spend out of their personal finances just to help the kids get the supplies they need. And so this lady was spot on whenever she brought her issue to the board. You know, and I also work in the school system, you know, as a social worker, and I'm just telling you that it's just unbelievable what this guy showed. But the truth is, Mr. Fontana is a perfect reflection of the school systems and the federal and state guidelines that they put on our teachers, interpreted and actually not just interpreted, but also enforced by the local school districts. And they don't know the pressures they put on these teachers to perform. And they say that students are number one. I disagree. They always say that they're going to put the students first, but the truth is, if you don't support your teachers, if you don't give them the stuff that they need to be successful, then they are not number one. And you can always say that Moon Griffon said this, and I think other people have said this, follow the money. Mm-hmm. Follow the money. That's where it all is. And that's why all these curriculums come down from, and they are so detached from what actually goes on in the school, in the classrooms. It is just ridiculous. These people should not be in office, but that's the reality of
I
the way it
think
is.
you are right on target. All the teachers I speak to say we get all of these edicts from on high, and they have no clue. Not a one of them has spent a day in the classroom. They have no idea what we face and the larger societal problems that come right into the classroom that we must deal with every day.
I have said over and over and over again in the last several months, having understood the experience much better with personal experience with a family member. If you are an employer, if you are a person who is self-employed, if you can make the time, you need to spend 2 to 3 days substituting in the school system to understand what these men and women go through and have conversations with those fellow teachers, because it will change your mind about a lot of different things. It's a hell of a lot harder than can even be explained on a radio show.
Bernie, I'll tell you, my husband did it when he was a legislator. Senator John Kennedy did it all the time when he was treasurer. And I think it gave him a perspective, and it gave my husband a perspective. And Ron went into one of the most challenged schools in the district, in the district in Lafayette Parish. It's not even in operation anymore. That's how challenged it was. It was our adopted school when he was a legislator. And I tell you, that it's amazing to me that, and to assume that those parents aren't committed, they are committed, but they're facing so many other problems, social problems, etc. It's tough.
Stafford, you want to wrap this one up for us?
Yeah, the biggest travesty out of all this is that she can go and sue that school board and win whatever money they want to give to her, right? Whatever the judge deems is fair. And unless that school board votes to pay her for it, she's not getting a dime. So I hope that her attorney handles this correctly. I hope that the people of Vermilion Parish show up at the next election. I hope you start vetting candidates today if you haven't done it already, and get these guys prepared to get the right systems in place to have good school boards.
And if you're interested in an agenda item being placed on the agenda, you can contact any of the school board members.
You only get 3 minutes or you go to jail.
Well, but at least you get your item.
You only get 5 minutes in Lafayette.
But you don't go to jail.
That's the Andy Hebert rule.
We got to wrap it up there for Winging It Wednesday. We'll be back next week. You guys are great. Thanks for coming in. We'll get to more diverse topics next week. But obviously, this is what you're talking about.
There was so many good things, too, that we could have...
Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot going on. We'll get to it.
We will.
Stay with us on Acadiana's Morning News, and thanks again to our friends over at Service Cadillac for bringing you Winging It Wednesday each and every week.
You can still buy Rob's car, right? I mean, we can still
I have a new car.
You're
going to start hearing about it today.
Ooh, hello,
the 2018
Dolly.
white XT5. It's beautiful.
You cannot have my car.
I know. It's mine.
It's mine. It's mine.
And congratulations to the lucky person who is driving the Platinum Edition Escalade. That was my last car. I missed it.
Excellent.
All right, stay with us. We're back next.